Retail and hospitality is changing, with often complex and fragmented systems combined with large volumes of customer data for businesses to make sense of. It's critical to work with the right partners in order to guarantee success. At Tratec Consulting, we help retail and hospitality businesses transform their technology, removing overly bloated processes and creating unified and efficient systems of working throughout. So don't just take our word for it. See for yourself. Tratec Consulting, the leaders in technology transformation across retail and hospitality.
Hello, welcome to the All Things Borough podcast, the official podcast for Farnborough Football Club and sponsored by Tratec Consulting. Tratec takes your business visions and turns them into innovative reality. Good evening, everybody listening and watching. I'm Alan, as usual. I'm joined by Simon up in Nottingham. Simon, how are you doing? More importantly, how are you feeling after Saturday?
Don't ask, Al. Don't ask. Nah, not good. No, do you know what? I actually feel all right. It's just the gouty ankle. Unfortunately, he's reared its head. So I'm having a bit of trouble with it. But I walked into town and back earlier, so it was all right. So not all bad. I had to get a taxi back, but it was all right.
yeah. My legs and my knees were a bit stiff after that as well yesterday. So
yeah,
but I'm all better now. So.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to run out on the pitch and raise a bit of money for the supporters trust as well. So that's all good.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
We gave out a couple of awards to the futsal guys as well afterwards. So that was all right. Had a few points afterwards to try and numb the pain, but it didn't work. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Had quite a few people there as well. About 100 people turned up, which was nice.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of people there. Yeah. All cheering for the futsal team.
Exactly. As soon as they started scoring, everyone turned on us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a shame. It was a shame the weather was rubbish. So it could have been done a bit hotter, really, couldn't it? To be fair, but there we are.
Oh God, no! It was baking. It was baking, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. It was even worse after that warm up. I went to put everyone through. Everyone was flagging after that. That was it.
I told you not to do. I told you when we were going around not to do that.
Old school coach, mate. You know what I mean? Get them running 2 miles before the game. Job done. Warm up.
No, no. Right. But anyway,
talking to coaches.
Talking of coaches, yeah, we've got a sort of a debrief episode for the season because obviously, as we all know, the season's finished. All the players are almost over. But we've got Steve Baker. He's on tonight with us. Good evening, Steve. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, boys. How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, like we said, feeling much better today. Now after I'm glad it's bank holiday anyway, so I don't have to go to work today because all the stiffness is going.
I've just noticed because you said it when I joined before, I couldn't see it, that my wife's name's in the corner, Sarah.
It is, yeah.
Oh yeah, that wasn't just me taking the piss, Steve. That was actually
I just presumed that you were, Si, because you normally do. My Spectrum 48K doesn't work on Zoom, so I've borrowed her work laptop.
Fair enough. Would you prefer to be known as Sarah this evening, Steve, or would you rather have Steve? It's up to you.
See how it goes.
All right, we go. Yeah.
I was saying to Steve, I was saying to Simon earlier, when we had a phone call earlier, the pitch at Cherry Road there is it's a lot bigger once you're on it. It's a lot bigger than you think it is. But when you're sitting on the stands, it doesn't look. It depends on what angle you're looking at. It doesn't look that big, but once we was on it, I thought, oh my God, this is huge. Yeah, someone said it's a UEFA B pitch or something like that.
Not something that I'm aware of, but as a pitch size, how good the grass. The pitch is brilliant. I mean, obviously, when you get to this time of year, where it's been played on God knows how many times this year, the last few games are a little bit bobbly and not so good. But when you look at the state of some of the pitches we went to late on in the season, which I'm sure we'll come on to because I think had a big effect on some of our performances. Our pitch is fantastic, and it's the whole ground's great, but the pitch is so well looked after. But no, you're right. When you're out there, it's a big old pitch.
Yeah,
it's good. It's not just a man's thing either. When they look at something and think it's bigger than it actually is, you know what I mean? But we're talking about pictures here, nothing else, obviously.
Put your glasses on.
Contacts these days.
I think obviously, like I said, once we was on there, I was thinking, oh my God, this pitch is huge. But then once, obviously, like the futsal lads, obviously they're all fit lads, and so most of them are half our age, and when they're running around with the ball and running rings around you, then the pitch then looks bigger because you're having to chase everything, and it was horrible.
Did the pitch seem bigger because you couldn't catch anyone?
Yeah,
I think that's probably what it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that after Saturday, I said to Simon afterwards, I said I think we need to actually gracefully retire now.
I can't. I just bought those boots. I just bought a brand new pair of boots for that game. I've got to use them, haven't I? I've used them once. I'll get straight in the bin. I had to take three pairs down the charity shop, Steve, because they didn't fit anymore. So obviously, it's the only thing in my body apart from my stomach that's grown, I think, in the last 20 years. So,
did the charity shop take them, or did they give them back?
Yeah, I found. Yeah, weirdly enough, they're still outside. When I went there, someone there was a "We know you are" sign on it. I don't know who that was. Anyway, I had to stick them in the back of my car, set them on fire. I think they did. Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, we've got you on tonight to as I said at the top of the show, a bit of a debrief of the season. So we want to know like how you feel the season has gone, the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, where you think things were good, went wrong, or if anything went wrong. What's your thoughts? So let's go back to the start of the season, because we had a really good start to the season, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, overall, my personal thoughts are a little bit disappointed. Okay. For various reasons. I mean, it's still a strong league position where we finished, and we were never in danger of getting dragged anything down the bottom, which is good. So it's got a lot of pressure off the boys and everyone for literally for the whole season. But I guess if you look at leagues by budgets, I mean, I don't know what our budget is, but I can't imagine it's anywhere near any of the top 6-7 clubs in the league at all. Yeah. So I bet if you maybe did the league on budget, we'd possibly overachieved. So, and I know that's hard enough to do anyway, because I did that for years in my previous job. So from that side of it, it's probably quite a good season. But I think the disappointment lies that coming off the back of last season, where the last few months was really, really good. And looking at the signings that come in the summer, a lot of experience come in, kept the players we wanted to keep. Ricky come back almost like a new signing.
Yeah.
And we had a great start, and you're thinking, right, we got half a chance this year. Now, every year certain clubs start well, and you think, oh, you got half a chance. But when as the games kick on, you start looking at the likes of Torquay, Boreham Wood, Maidstone, Worthing, Eastbourne, and all the ones that are most of them are full time, I think, or hybrid, and the size of their squads and the depth and the quality of their squads. If you were to look at even back then, you think you're going to do well. But every year there seems to be one that's not in that top 5 or 6 that makes the playoffs. Yeah. So with the start we had and keep ourselves in and around it, I thought maybe this could be the year that we'd have a chance. And then obviously went for a really bad run of form in the build-up sort of before Christmas, a couple of months before Christmas, where we were conceding goals for fun. 1 minute we were scoring for fun, and then still conceding a few, and then all of a sudden we were conceding and couldn't score a goal. Me personally, I'd rather lose a game 4-3 than try and win it 1-0 and then lose 1-0. But that's just my personal preferences on football. But then in the new year, we obviously a couple like Johnny Stuttle come in, which made a huge difference to us. A couple of players got fit, and then all of a sudden we picked up again, and you're thinking, I don't know, it could be a little bit like last year. And then we had a couple of, I think it was Chelmsford at home, the one we lost. I think after that,
4-2.
Became, I think the last 6 weeks of the season was probably quite frustrating for everybody. There were some poor performances in there, some all right, and some really good. But it doesn't help, as much as people say, you've still got to put it in every week, and everybody does. When you're in that mid-table position limbo where you're not going anywhere, it does affect your performances, and you've only got to look at.
Is that an actual? Sorry, Steve. Is that an actual thing where, like you say, you're in that sort of mid-table limbo where you know you're not going up, you know you're not going down? Is that a mentality thing for all players that they have, where they just think, well, you know what, we'll put the effort in, but if we lose, we lose. If we win, we win. Is that a thing?
I don't think players. I think it's definitely a thing. I don't think people actually sit there and think, well, we're playing a game today and we can't go up, we can't go down, so we'll
Yeah.
just go for emotions. Don't get me wrong, there's been a few games when I think we did go for emotions, but I don't think it's an intentional thing.
Yeah.
But you can't recreate pressure or reward or failure when there isn't one at the end of it. Now, there might be personal rewards. There could be a new contract. It could be personal failure. You might get bombed out of the club.
Yeah.
You might have clubs watching you. So you try and manage the group in a different way. Like, Rick saying to the young lads all the time, even though we couldn't do anything, you're playing for your careers. It could be here. It could be a club started watching you that you don't know. I mean, as you guys know, I do that for Northampton, and I watch players and they don't know you're watching them. And you might watch them 5 or 6 times. Now, you could watch one of our lads say at Tonbridge and go, he was really good. You could have watched him at Cheshire and St Albans and said, no chance.
Yeah.
So I don't think, listen, I'm sure there are players out there that just doesn't really bother them by that stage anyway. You'd like to think that we didn't have any like that, and I don't think we got that sort of group, but it definitely is, for me, it's definitely a true thing, and you do feel it as staff sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, we don't do anything any different. We still want the lads to perform and tell them what we expect of them, and Spencer demands exactly the same out of them in every game, whether you're playing for anything or not. But you can't make up something that isn't there. So I think maybe underlying like psychology, that because there's nothing on it. You know, it's like in life, anything you do, if there's a risk to it, you feel a bit nervous. If there's no risk to it at all, you just do it. So, and that's why I think you get a lot of funny results at the end of the season. Sometimes teams will say, oh, well, that's a good side to play because they're mid-table. And then the mid-table team go out and absolutely smash them, or vice versa. So, it's a hard one to call, but I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. It's not, like I say, it's not something that's sort of anyone tries or tries not to do. It just happens like that, doesn't it? It's just one of them things.
Yeah.
I actually think you've summed the season up quite well, actually, and I actually think our season is actually summed up at the start of the season. If you take our first 6 games, so the first sort of month and a half, we sort of won 3, lost 3, and drew 1, and that sort of sums our season up, doesn't it? Very, very up and down, I think, is the way it turned out. Which is
I would agree with that. I just felt that as a season, like some of the games we lost earlier on in the season, I still thought we played really well. Like Dorking at home, lost 4-3, really good game.
Yeah,
quite unlucky on the day.
Yep.
But then we had other games later on in the season, like Enfield, St Albans, and Chesham away, where listen, you're not going to win every game. You're going to lose games, but is there a way to lose a game? I think there is. And I felt as the season went on, that's where, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, where we need to improve as a side. Those are the types of games that I think showed a bit of a weakness in us as the season went on.
Yeah, agreed.
What is it, do you think, then, that needs to improve in those sort of stages? I mean, I know we was at Chesham, and the pitch didn't help matters either. But it's the same for both teams. But what is it you think that, if there is anything that needs to improve, is it a mentality thing, or is it something else?
I think it's probably a mixture of a few things. But in my time at the club, I think the games that we've really struggled on have been on really poor pitches, which you have to get over that, because you ain't going to many good grass pitches in the last 2 or 3 months of the season, and against quite physical, direct sides that probably play that way because of the pitches they've got as well. I can think of quite a few games where we didn't look like, a couple of them games we could still be there now, we wouldn't have scored. And we didn't affect the opposition. We actually, like all them 3 games I mentioned, Enfield, St Albans and Chesham, I actually don't think we deserve to lose any of them.
No.
We were at St Albans match, and it was like the Alamo second half, and it were all over them. And they Spencer said they had one shot they scored, which was probably a defensive error as well, which doesn't help, and we lost the game. There's been a few games like that, and even you look at that, even go back to the start of the season, the Tonbridge game on the Bank Holiday Monday, we got beat 2-0. I actually thought Tonbridge did a proper job on us there, because they just hit us on the break twice and scored, and it was one of them games where we could have played till Christmas and not scored. You know, it's just one of them games really. But I think you're right, Steve. There was a lot of I'd say probably up and down, in and out form possibly, and then couple that with maybe some a little bit of bad luck really. It hasn't helped us really. And obviously we had some poor refereeing decisions. That we had 2 bad ones in one game as against Hampton, which I still remember to this day. Probably will to the rest of my life. Yeah, it was some bad refereeing decisions. I don't think we've had the rubber to green on that either. I think over the course of the season, people will say, "Oh, it evens itself out," blah blah blah. It doesn't.
Injuries have obviously played a part in it as well this season. You know, we had 2 I can think of, like Haddy come in and then done his shoulder, and then that striker, I can't remember what his name is now, the one that we got in from Peterborough, played against Aveley, played 5 minutes against Aveley, done his hamstring.
4 seconds,
yeah. Pemi something or other, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah. So injuries have played a little part, but it's the same for every club as well. But
wasn't it his first kick? Did he kick the ball out from a corner?
Yeah.
And then he went down.
He come back on the edge of the box to defend it.
Yeah.
Booted it out.
As he cleared it, I looked at him. I said, "Spencer, I think he's done his hamstring." Spencer, look, all the blood just drained out of him.
I was surprised.
Yeah. I think I remember because I was there, and I think I was on the phone to Simon.
Yeah.
When it happened, and I was like, right, corner, cleared out. The new strikers cleared it out, and then I went, oh no, he's limping a little bit, and he limped to the halfway line, and then went down.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. We did have a period where I think, including that week and a few games before, we seemed to lose it. Like Robbo had got injured as well. Someone else was injured. Ricky was out injured, and it was like one after another. And the biggest or strongest squad, and you lose 2 or 3 key players, and it does make a big difference. And that's where the bigger sides, when they lose 2 or 3 key players, they replace them. Yeah, it doesn't affect them, and it did affect us. Refereeing decisions, you're going to get some shit ones. And we did have a few where I think they probably cost us points, but probably didn't cost us anything longer term if you look at league position and things like that. But going back to the point we was originally talking about, where those kind of games that we haven't really done anything in, if you're going to do well in any league, especially a non-league, you've got to find a way to get points in those kind of games. Now, some of that will be personnel. We're quite a small side, a lot of technical players. And when you go to shit pitches, you've got to find it. And it's very, very difficult because I like us to play, because I think when we play, that's when we're at our best. But I also understand that there'll be certain pitches we go to and you think it's not really viable to try and play that way. But for me, our biggest issue is if we go direct, we're not very good at it because we don't have a direct team. Now, when you talk about recruitment for any level, I was talking to someone today about it actually, and I think you have to say, right, this is the style we're going to play. So you have to recruit for that style. You can't sign 16 technical small players and play long ball. You can't sign 16 monsters and then say, right, I want you to play from the back of Jack. So in an ideal world, I think you want to get a little bit of a balance there within the squad, that if you go to Chesham away next March, you say, right, we're 4-4-2 today. We're going long off the front 2. We didn't really have the personnel to do that, and whenever we tried to go long, we never ever looked like scoring a goal.
No, you're dead right. Yeah, I think that's probably why Spencer did his best really to try and bring in a forward like Pemi and like Haddy to give him a bit of presence up front. Works hard, puts people under pressure, that sort of thing. And both times it didn't work out, did it? It's only when we got Johnny in that sort of things started turning around for us a little bit, didn't they? But,
and Pavey as well. When Pavey came in on loan, he did well with the time on loan because he was that big man that we can aim for up front. And him and Johnny up top on together. Yeah, but that Dorking game away, Dorking away. When Pavey came on at half time, he turned the game around for us basically. Yeah. And I think we were unlucky not to win that one.
Yeah, we should have. But again, like I was just saying, we had the options to do that because Pavey, you can play into his feet, but he gives you the option, obviously. And then you had Johnny playing off him for a couple of weeks. Them two look really good as a pair.
They did, yeah.
But saying what we need and getting what we need are two very, very different things.
Yeah.
I sat in Spencer's shoes for years trying to do what he does. And I tell you what, it's fucking really, really hard, especially forward. Because forward, everyone wants a top forward. Everyone wants a big forward that can do everything. But they cost a lot of money. And if we're going for one, we're not the only club going in for them.
Yep.
So it's very, very difficult. And like you say, you get Pemmy in, gets injured after a minute. Haddy, 5 minutes, breaks his shoulder. And you're like, geez, what's next? And luckily Stutt's come in and he was unbelievable. So
he was.
It's I think it's just looking at, and I know this St. Spence is working on all the time and he's non-stop on it and putting every effort in he can to get it. But I think if we could maybe similar blend to what we had at the start of the season, although they didn't all work out and they won't all work out, just have those different options in the squad that you can mix up, because I think you look at some of the top sides that the likes of Boreham Wood and Maidstone, they can mix up quite well what they do, and they can hurt you both ways. We can't hurt a side going long ball, but when we play on a good surface, which we've done this year at quite a few places, Dorking second half, Hemel Hempstead away for me was probably the best we played football wise. Even though we drew. Tonbridge away, obviously on our pitch at the start of the season when the pitches are good. All of those have been good. But it's trying to find the other side of it, which is easier said than done.
Yeah. Talking to obviously mentioned some really good performances there. Obviously, other than the Tadley Calavera Hampshire Cup home match,
nothing to do with me.
Yeah, everyone's watched the rounds of that one. I blame like the kit man. It's his fault.
That's Mike's. That's Mike's.
Yeah. Other than that game, obviously, what do you think was the best result? Well, maybe best result, and then maybe say best performance.
Well, funnily enough, talking about the Hampshire Cup, I was sitting because we'd gone away for a special week in Spain, and I'd specifically booked because we had no game that week. So I said to Spence, any chance for night for training start? Yeah, no problem. I'm sitting on the side of a pool, got a beer in my hand. I get a text from Paul Hawksby at TalkSport.
Oh, well.
And he said, do you fancy coming on the show to discuss last night's 14-0 defeat? No, I fucking
don't. He got a mention because I was listening. Weird enough, I think it was on the way back from Loughborough, and I was listening to him in the afternoon. I had an early finish. So I was on the M25, and he mentioned it, and I was like, oh god, we've got notoriety's hit the club. You know what I mean? We've got 14-0, and it was saying we've done it. And also they didn't know the details or anything, but they said, God, they must have really capitulated in the second half, because it was like it was a massacre. And they said they couldn't even tell me. They were saying I couldn't even tell you where Taddy Calavera played. It was a farmer must have really put out the kids or something. And I was like, no, it's worse than that.
The funny thing was, I was talking to a couple of players when we come back, and I think Tadley, their first 5 or 6 goals, every time they scored, they were going mad, like really celebrating.
Yeah.
And then one of the lads said to the Tadley, "You do know who's playing for us?" And he didn't know. Then he pointed it out. He said, "No, after that they didn't celebrate."
They're big night. They're first of all, shit. We're like we've all that stuff we've been eating and all that stuff we've been doing in training. It's all paying off, lads. Look at it. We're killing this lot. And then hold on a minute. The fattest of fans.
Telling all your mates you just bagged a hat trick at Farnborough, and and then you see the team.
Yeah,
exactly. I was the same. I had friends texting me saying, "What's going?" The result, and I was going, "What's going on here? What's it? 14-0 against bloody Tadley Cavilla, whoever they are. What level are they?" And I was like, "Hang on a minute. Look, you need to know the full story." And it wasn't the actual team that we put out.
Yeah, we had the media managers playing left back for a start. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we might need to review that cup next year, because I think we got. Joking aside, we got a lot of negative shit about that.
Yeah. Do you know what, Steve? Funny, we were chatting about this on Saturday, weren't we, with some of the futsal guys, and some of the futsal lads want to put their name forward to play it next year. They'd give a few teams a go. I tell you what, some of them were quite decent, and I did say to them,
when we did it last year, it was actually one a bad night. Maybe let's between us as a group, if the club decides to do that again next year, and I understand why they did it. Yeah. But to lose 14-0, I didn't think it looked particularly good on the club.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of who's playing in that team, that goes down. That's on record now. That is probably our worst defeat, and we can sort of defend it, but that's it. It's on record now, so we've got to sort of try and avenge that. Really, I think next year we'll put out a full strength team against another step 5 or step 6 side, and do them 14 or 15-0.
Well, I think, to be honest, for me, looking at over the last, towards the end of the season, we had 2 or 3 academy lads that were training with us every week, and obviously Cass come in and got a few minutes, and the 3 that trained with us were decent. I quite like Cass, and I think he's got half a chance for his age and size, and he was probably a little bit unlucky not to get a few more minutes in the last couple of games, but obviously I understand why. But maybe let's look at get a few of the academy lads down training with us earlier on in the season, have a look at a few of them, and it might be a perfect, because if you put your academy lads out and they do all right and maybe lose 3 or 4-0, it don't matter.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But anyway, I spent far too much time talking about the Hampshire Cup.
Yeah, we loads of right in. Yeah, Alan's still miffed he didn't get in the team, Steve. That's why he was telling me, right, we've got to mention that. We got to get Steve to talk about it.
I was upset. I was upset I didn't get in the team last year. I'm glad I didn't get in the team this season.
Yeah, and I was fucking delighted I weren't there. So
yeah,
I wouldn't change that. But yeah, going back to your original question, sort of highlights, performances, and things like that.
Yeah.
There's not been, like, I suppose, from a high point of view. Obviously, it was a great start to the season, beating Eastbourne, Torquay, and good solid performances there. Not unbelievable games, but we looked a good side. We looked solid in every department. We looked strong at the back. So some really good performances there. Probably the 1 or 2 that stand out for me, Worthing at home and away, especially away. We were really, really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we seem to have a bit of a thing over Worthing in the last few games, and they got so frustrated at their place. But the game plan that Spence put out that night worked perfectly. But we also played some good football that night as well, and probably could have won by a few more. I thought, for attacking football, the best for me we played was Hemel Hempstead away, which ended up 3-3.
Yeah, we're at that game. Yeah, I agree with you.
We was at that game. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Like Chinny.
Honestly, we could have scored 8 or 9. Honestly, we're unbelievable.
And that was so good because the previous week we'd gone out the FA Cup to Walton. And I remember it was an embarrassing defeat at Walton, but I was more embarrassed at the way that they tried to play. We didn't play anything. And when you're standing there as a coach on the side, I wouldn't be surprised to hear someone say, "What the fucking hell's the coach doing?" Because it looked like they'd never been coached. Listen, you get games like that, happens at all level. But I remember that we sat down and had a chat that week, and I said, like, we're going to Hemel, we're on a free. Let's just try and play a little bit more, because I think we've got the players to do it. And people could say, well, you still conceded 3 goals. There was nothing to do with the way we played. There were 3 mistakes. We didn't concede by Jack playing. I think a lot of people get mixed up in this. When you want to play, it's like, oh, they're playing in their own box all the time. You don't have to play that way. You can play it for your goalkeeper, but it doesn't mean you have to give it to the centre half in the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
You look at Man City; they set up to play, and all of a sudden Edison's putting Haaland over the top.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah, it's all about playing. It's all about playing in the right areas, isn't it? You get the ball. You can start playing from the halfway line, because that's where your players feel more comfortable and they can express themselves more. Because if they're playing in front of the 18-yard box, they probably won't, will they? Because they'll want to think, well, I don't want to get the ball away and knock it out.
And if you're going to play that way, you've got to have the right type of players to do it. So I thought, from an attacking point of view, I thought the game at Hemel was fantastic. I thought at Tonbridge we were very, very good, albeit they had quite a weakened side on the day, and I think the manager had left a couple of days before. So
I think he had. Yeah,
it's a good time to play them, I think, that one.
Yeah, perfect time. I thought the 8-2 at Hampton, again, because we played, was great. Again, they didn't have I don't think they had a defender available on the day, so that probably it wouldn't have normally been 8-2. So, but you take those, and I thought there were some other good performances within that. So there's a few positives in there, and it frustrates you when you see those performances and then you don't see them for the next 2 or 3 games.
Yeah,
and that's why you finish mid-table.
Yeah,
because you've probably been inconsistent with those. But I thought I think there's been a few games we've lost where we played really well. I thought Western Supermare away, I thought we were brilliant, but we couldn't defend.
Yeah.
So, but going forward, we were fantastic. I mentioned Dorking at home. I thought it was a really good game, and probably the most enjoyable one of the year, which sounds a bit weird because we drew, was Dorking away.
I think for a fan perspective, there was probably about 200-300 of Farnborough fans there for the game. and it was so loud we couldn't even hear the Dorking fans on the other side of the pitch. Our fans were so loud. But yeah, that game was probably one of my highlights as well. Both games against Dorking.
I think that game in particular, the away game, that's the best support I've seen since I've been at the club. Just purely, it just reminded me of a proper old-fashioned non-league game where like Dorking had a lot there anyway, and all our lot was so rammed in to the other side. And the noise second half, and I mean, I think we 1-0 down after about 3 minutes, and then
about 10 seconds. About 10 seconds.
I think it was 2-0 after about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I remember like me and Spencer on the side going, "Fuck me, we could get absolutely smashed."
Simon was saying that to me.
It's that same thing. I said, "This is going to be a cricket score." I said, "You carry on like this." And but I have to say, what you said about the atmosphere, it reminds me very much of like an old school kind of FA Cup game where you have a lot of fans come out for a big day. You know what I mean? This is our chance to get in the first round proper, for example, and then everyone so you get 200-300 away in the away end, and then you got all the home fans all up for it. I thought everybody was up for it really in the whole ground.
Maybe it's a thing of us against Dorking. I don't know, but I don't think sometimes supporters realise how much difference they can make to a game. Now, don't worry, it works both ways because we got back in the game, they got going, and vice versa, and we were unlucky not to win it on the day. But when you get that kind of atmosphere in a game, I mean, we've gone to certain games this year, and you're standing around and it's dead, and you can feel it on the side. But when you get games where the crowd's going, there's loads of singing and stuff like that. You can even feel like from the coaching point of view, you can feel the atmosphere on the side, and
I think as well with that game. Sorry, Steve. I think as well with that game, the Dorking away game, which I didn't realise until I watched the Bunch of Amateurs episode from that game, is that I found it quite funny because Mark White and his coaching team couldn't really sort of figure out tactically what you and Spencer and the management were doing really, or had done, especially in the second half when you brought Pavey on. I think they were, and even at the beginning of the game, Mark was pretty confused with the fact that Reggie was playing left back when he knows he's a winger, and he kept saying to his coaches, "Oh, they're playing this formation, they're playing this formation." His coaches are going, "No, they're playing this formation, they're playing this formation." And then the second half, it all changed around again, and they got so confused. And that second half, we was all over them, and they just couldn't figure it out. And it's to the point where he told his keeper to go down and obviously feign an injury so he can get everybody over and talk to them about what he wants them to do in that. And but I think that game is obviously kudos to you guys on the side for getting it tactically right.
Yeah, I think going back to that one in particular, I think because it was Spencer's call at half time, obviously for Alfie to come on.
Yeah,
and I think we were looking at like a 3-5-2 and then a 4-4-2 because obviously that's normally you can only get two up top.
Yeah.
But he looked at it and said, well, let's go 4-1-3-2. And I think what helped because you had, I think it was Ricky, Joe, and Chinny in front of Cooley. Them three, they were all over the place, and then Reg and Reg was playing really high as well.
Yeah.
So even though we were playing a 4-1-3-2, it almost wasn't because them three with Reg going forward were all over the place.
Yeah.
But you still managed to keep two up top, and it was a system.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. It's not a system I particularly like, the diamond or 4-1-3-2, whatever one you call it. It's a good system when you got the ball. It's the hardest system when you haven't got the ball. If you're not, unless you're playing someone who's playing an identical system. It is a nightmare.
Hard to pick up.
You get done down the wings, aren't you? Because everyone's in the middle. You just get done wide all the time. Fullbacks and stuff.
And it's not a system I particularly like, but there was a couple of games when we played it, especially at Dorking. It was very, very effective. And sometimes, at give Spencer his credit, sometimes you've got to, whether it be on a one-off or wherever, you've got to find a system to fit a certain 11 in.
Yeah.
And on the day, I think that was the only way he could really do it, and it worked.
Yeah.
As a coach and like a manager, what's the feeling when it goes right like that on the day? Fair enough, we drew, but we had the chances to win. But what's that feeling like when you're getting one over, or sort of getting one over another team like that, tactically wise?
Yeah. I don't think you're saying you get overly carried away with, because sometimes you say, right, let's try that and it works. Other days you'll try it and it won't fucking work. So it's not like tactical genius, and so, sometimes you get a feel for certain things, and you say let's do that and it works. It's like putting subs on and different systems and stuff like that. But like I say, it's not a system if you're going to play that system, you've got to work on that in training non-stop.
Oh yeah.
As I say, without the ball, with the ball it's fine. Without the ball, I think it's the hardest system to play. But I think sometimes you've got to find a system that you're going to stick to. Again, a lot of that comes down to player availability, injuries, who's on the bench, who can come in and things like that. So in an ideal world, you'd like to say, right, we're going to play 4-2-3-1 every single week and never ever change it. Unfortunately, sometimes you come up against opposition where you think, actually, if we play the same shape as them, player for player, they're better than us. So if you're one of the top 4 or 5, like if you watch Worthing, for example, and Torquay, they don't change their shape very often. They'll play the same. But sometimes when you can't match them player for player, you have to maybe look at your shape and what you do, and that's why probably at times you've seen us play 3-5-2, 4-3-3, and then 4-1-3-2. So, but no, don't get me wrong. Go back to what you said. It's sometimes you go with something, and when it comes off, it's good. I think the only thing you have to be careful sometimes, if you try something and it works, it don't mean it's going to work every single week.
Yeah, of course.
You might get lucky.
You've got to be adaptable, haven't you?
But
I think certainly at our level and higher, I think every single match there's differences every time, so you have to tweak everything every time, don't you? Tweak something. Say Reggie, for example, played left back, that might work really well, and then other games, Spencer would look at it and think, well, they only play one up front, so we could possibly play a 3-5-2 rather than a 4 at the back. So things like that, or thinking about ways of how can we get our wide players involved more, or how can we keep the ball more and put in one man extra in midfield, for example. That sort of thing. I think every single team you play against, you have to tweak it slightly because that's the level you're at.
Yeah, you probably do. I think from a coaching point of view, in an ideal world, you would say we're playing this system every week, no matter who we play, and then because players then know what their role is every single week.
Yeah.
With the ball and without the ball.
Yeah, breeds consistency, that doesn't it?
Yeah. And then what you do, you work on training every week. If you're playing a side on Saturday, say if we play 4-2-3-1 every week, and Saturday we play 3-5-2, then we work on training on us with the ball, without the ball against that system, and then it might be a different system next week. And in an ideal world, you would want to try and stick to that, but things change during the season as well. If you're on a bad run, you think, right, let's change the system. That might work for you. I remember years ago when I was at Harrow, we were on the worst run ever, and I knew I was 2 games away from getting the sack. Yeah. And my assistant said, "Let's go 3-5-2, but play 2 wingers as wing backs." I think we went to Burgess Hill and won 4-1, and after that, I think the last 15 games, I think we won 9 games and had the highest finish in the Isthmian League in 25 years. And that was just one tweak because we couldn't score any goals. My assistant come up with Jesse Smith come up with a shout, said, "Let's try that," and it did. So sometimes it does work. Yeah.
Going back to the season. I've obviously taken aside the Walton Hersham FA Cup game. Was that probably the lowest point of the season for us this year, or was there one more other game you could think of?
Salisbury in the trophy was crap.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that was poor. Although, in fairness, I think on the day there was a couple rested because I think we had a big league game on the Tuesday night, and we were on a good run at the time. So those things happen. Worst performance by a country mile was Walton Hersham. I thought that was embarrassing. Listen, I've managed and coached sides that have knocked teams from much higher levels. I've also managed and coached teams that have lost to teams below levels. That happens in the cup. But I thought the manner of performance and how they schooled us on the day was quite embarrassing. Look, I'm talking for me personally. And there wasn't one positive that come out of that. And then obviously you get the fallout of FA Cup revenue and supporters getting the ump because you want to get a good FA Cup run. And I couldn't disagree with any of that. Then there was a few other league performances. It wasn't too many absolute stinkers. Like I say, the three I mentioned earlier on, we probably didn't deserve to lose any of them. Enfield away, St Albans and Chesham, just crap games. Didn't look like we was ever going to score. Thought Maidstone away was probably the one where we got schooled the most. But they were very, very good on the day, and they've showed that by where they are now. So
yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
There's no absolute shame in that. So there's probably a few others in between that I might have forgotten about. And Averley away was another one that was when we was on a bad run, which was a bit of a stinker. But they're probably the only ones that really stick out, unless you can remember any that I can't.
I think you're right, Stephen. It's not. I can't put my finger on many games that we've not been competitive or not. What we should have done, we should have had a better result than we got. Really, in some of the games, and obviously that's not even talking about the games we actually did play really well and did get good results. So I think it's I think a lot of fans have, like you said at the start, it's been a bit. I think fans have feel disappointed possibly the way the season's ended and where we've ended, because we didn't at least eclipse what we did last season or improve upon last season, because we should have got in the playoffs really last year and just missed out on. We were looking at it. You think, we come 10th and we must be regressing rather than progressing. But I don't see it that way. I think the league's got stronger. I think we've had a pretty good season. I'll give it a sort of maybe a 6.5, 7 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's like a 5 or a 4. Which some people look at and think, they've gone backwards. They probably didn't do very well this season. I think we've been pretty good. What's your thoughts on that, Steve? Do you think I'm sort of about there, or do you think I'm being a bit over optimistic? Or
no, I don't think you're a million miles off what I was saying. To be fair, I might have worded it slightly different, and I think I'm
probably better than me. Yeah,
I didn't say that. I think it's from a coaching point of view, you're more disappointed because you want to improve. On the previous season, and we looked like we were going to, and I just felt not that we went backwards, but we sort of ended up looked like we were going to start to climb, and maybe fell back to where we were halfway through the previous season. I don't know. We just didn't really.
Yeah, it was a bit like 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time with us. I think this season, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think like you made a good point there as well. The league was stronger this year.
Yeah.
So we might have actually stayed the same as we were the previous year, but because the league's become stronger, more full-time sides, you've only got to look at the top 6 and 7 this year. Some proper big clubs in there, big budgets, and a lot of good players and strong squads. So maybe we've stayed exactly where we were, but the opposition has jumped up a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think also from the flip end of the table, if you look at all the teams that got promoted into our league, none of them got relegated. So I think that says a lot, really. Hornchurch have done really well. They finished just above us, I think, in 9th. Chesham held their own pretty much all season. Salisbury started the season off pretty well. Did okay. Stayed up, and Enfield stayed up as well, which I think a lot of people were surprised about. They were everybody's favourites to come bottom, weren't they? So they've all of them have stayed up. So it's I think that says a lot about the division as well. But going on to something else. What's your thoughts on the playoff final? Obviously, it's Boreham Wood versus Maidstone. Who do you fancy on that one?
Tough one to call. Someone asked me a few weeks ago about who I thought would go up, and I'm not just saying it because I said it, but I had a sneaky feeling for Truro. I don't know what it was, but I think because they was the underdog and they just kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
I called it a few weeks ago. I said I think they'll nick it. Not because I thought they were the best side, but they were very, very good at what they did.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, someone said to me the other day, "Who do you think's the strongest side in the league?" And I said, "I think player for player, I think it's Boreham Wood."
Yeah.
Who could do a little bit of everything as well. But then I thought playoffs initially. I think Torquay with the support behind them and things like that. But then obviously they've gone and knocked Torquay out. So I think if I had to call it, if I was betting man, and I'm not because I'm not allowed, I'd probably go Boreham Wood. But would it surprise me if Maidstone rocked up and won 1-0?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel the same way.
I do. I think they will win.
Going back to the league, you touched on it earlier, but all the full-time sides in it. Obviously, everybody knows, like you said, the league is stronger this year than it was last year. But only two can go up from the league, and then with obviously two coming back down, the amount of in a few years' time, the amount of full-time sides that are going to be in the league is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Is that potentially going to hinder clubs like us that aren't full-time? And does that put a lot of pressure on clubs like us to become full-time or some sort of hybrid?
Well, it certainly doesn't help trying to compete with sides that are training, even if it's 3 times a week or 4 times a week. Fitness levels, organisation, coaching sessions, everything that they've got, we don't have. It's no one's fault. We just don't have it.
Yeah.
And the stronger the more you get in the league, and the amount of money that seems to be coming into non-league football, you're only going to get more of that. If you look at the leagues below, and I'm not saying they're going to be doing it in 2 years' time, but the likes of Farnham and clubs like that, you don't know where they're being 4 or 5 years' time, because these clubs have got some serious backers behind them. I think a lot of people, a lot of these investors have looked at the Football League now and thought, do you know what, there's better options below that we can grow the club slowly and build what we want to build, and it can be their club rather than just go and sling a load of money into an EFL club and never seeing that money again. But it's getting stronger and stronger. I mean, if you look at the National League above us to what that was a few years ago, it's well to pot with who's come into it and who's gone up from it. And it wouldn't, I'm not saying it will, but it wouldn't surprise me if in a few years' time, if that then becomes part of the EFL, and then maybe step 2 becomes 2 divisions right at the top and 2 feeders into the EFL then. But longer term, if more and more clubs are going hybrid or full time, to match it, you've probably got to do the same. But to do the same is, because if you're part time, you're saying to lads, listen, I don't have a clue what anyone earns, but I just use these ballpark figures. So if you're saying to a lad, come and play for us at Farnborough, you're in 3 times a week, it's £500 a week. That's good. That's good money. Because he's already working. He's not gonna take £600 a week to come in 4 times a week, because he's not going to give his job up. So all of a sudden, if you want people to give their job up, you've got to start paying people £700,000, £800,000, £900,000 a week to get them in. So all of a sudden, you could be looking at 5-6 times your current budget just to gamble going full time with no guarantee of anything. So it's you've got to have some serious finance to do that. And even if you look from a staff point of view, like if Spencer said, "Oh, Steve, next year we're going full time." Well, okay, I'd love to do that. It's my dream to be a full-time coach, but I'm not doing that for travelling expenses or whatever I get or whatever anyone else gets. You've got to give your job up to do it. Like, can you imagine if Farnborough went into the National League and you go full-time? You can't have a job around that.
No.
It's impossible. So it's, in an ideal world, we'd love to do it, and the players would love to do it. But you've got to find so much.
Oh yeah. We know the fans obviously know as well. The club's not in a position to be able to do something like that. But like what I was trying to say was, with the amount of full-time clubs that are coming down through relegation, that's just going to build up in the National League South and the National League North as well. Yeah, and it's just going to make
the league table don't lie.
No, exactly. Yeah, so it makes it harder for clubs like us to actually try and do well in what is actually technically a part-time division.
Yeah,
but it's almost half full of full-time clubs.
Like you say, if you look at the top 6 or 7 at the end of the season, I think most of them are either full-time or hybrid. I'm not too sure about Worthing, but obviously Maidstone are, Eastbourne are, Torquay are, Boreham Wood are. So it's the proof's in the pudding if you can do it. So and if more come into it, then if you look at like now, it looks like Maidstone are going to come down, Dagenham are going to come in, Ebbsfleet are coming in. I don't think they're training once a week.
No.
So that makes it even harder for next year.
Yeah, that's pretty much my last point. Actually, before we move on, talk a little bit about you, just you personally, Steve. Is going forward, looking at it next year. I mean, obviously we think that Merthyr and possibly Hemel Hempstead, Bedford are going to go into the north. depending on a few little things. And you got, like you say, you got the Dagenham, Maidenhead, and Ebbsfleet coming down. Do you see, like I do, that the league is harder next season already than this season?
Yeah, I think it is, just by the clubs that you've just named. And obviously, you've got a couple coming up. You don't know what they're going to be like. Or how they're going to do. There could be a couple of surprises in there. But yeah, when you've got the likes of those clubs, if they come down, they're going to want to go straight back up, because they've been in Dagenham, and couldn't remember last time Dagenham and Maidenhead were in those leagues.
No,
and Ebbsfleet. So they're going to. You can bet your bottom dollar that they'll all want to be challenging to go straight up. So even this year was harder than last year, and I think next year will be harder than this year.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
and that could happen I think a lot of non-league football has got stronger every year at every level in the last few years. I think even if you look at step 5, step 4, step 3, you're getting more ex-professionals in there. You get better managers, better coaches, more money, better players, and you get a lot of younger players that see a pathway through to playing full-time football now if they can't get into a pro club. So it's a big shop window as well, and which is brilliant. It's what you want in non-league football.
It's a great advert for non-league football as well. I mean, what's going on, and how better it is, and how tougher it is for clubs and players. It's a great advert to get for people to go and watch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think when you look at, I mean, I watch a lot of football, but I think the most boring football I've watched this year has been Premier League football.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Honestly,
it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the best games I've watched this year have either been non-league, some of the playoff stuff. Champions League's been really good, and quite a lot of the EFL stuff. I think the best game I watched this year was Sheffield United Leeds.
Yeah, me and you had a chat about that, didn't we? On your Twitter. Yeah, great game. Yeah,
honestly, I could have watched that again afterwards. It was end to end, tackles flying in, people trying to play. It was taking chances.
Yeah,
and it was everything you want. And then I think a couple of days later, I think I was watching Arsenal against someone. I turned it off after 15 minutes. It was so boring to watch. I think Gary Neville made a great point the other week when he was talking about the top level now. Because if you go back a few years ago in Premier League, when you had United and Arsenal and Liverpool, and some of the games with City and that they used to watch were so good.
Yeah,
almost like these players now like robots. Everyone's scared to make a mistake. You've got one team that keeps the ball for fun. The other team puts 11 behind the ball, doesn't try and do anything. You've got teams trying to play out from the back that can't play out from the back.
I was going to say that I think the Premier League's it's become very tactical, and it's all about tactics and playing a certain way and all that sort of thing, and rather than actually like you mentioned, like the days of rivalries between Ferguson and Wenger at United and Arsenal, and then you had Liverpool City, and there were proper blood and thunder derby games, I mean, all sorts of things. Even the Liverpool, even the Merseyside derbies this season haven't been particularly blood and thunder. There's been no sort of, apart from Tarkowski's tackle in that game. That's the only real bad tackle I can actually think of. It was all a bit meek, really. Whereas 10 years ago, you'd have people flying in everywhere, wouldn't you? That's what the fans like.
And listen, don't get me wrong. The game's changed a little bit with VAR and things like that. But that's why when I was talking about the Leeds Sheffield United game, that was like a throwback.
Yeah.
And I watched quite a lot of EFL this year, and I've actually, technically they're not as good as the top players, but I've enjoyed watching a lot more lower level football now, because you've got teams having a bit more of a go, and like I say, at the top level, I think it's become quite boring.
Yeah. I think the Premier League's been I don't think it's been certainly not been a classic Premier League this year, because obviously you've had the 3 relegated teams going back down again, and they were relegated. They're pretty much relegated at Christmas. Everybody could see it coming, really, couldn't they? It was inevitable, which is a shame. So there's been no jeopardy there. There might be a bit of jeopardy though in the next few weeks for the Champions League places. I think that'd be quite interesting. Obviously, Chelsea, my team, have got a bit of quite a tough run in. We've got to play Newcastle away, United home, and then we got Forest away last match. So I know you won't be supporting Chelsea in that one, Steve. But yeah, they've got a tough game. And Forest have got to play Arsenal, I think, as well. And Newcastle have got to play Arsenal. Forest have got some tough. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be I think it'll change quite a bit. And you might even see City overtaking Arsenal for second at one point as well, because they've got a good run in.
I don't like the fact at the top level that the excitement then becomes about finishing 5th rather than
that's true.
It was always who's going to win the league, who's going to get relegated, and 3 teams that come up have been abysmal.
Yeah, Yeah.
Obviously, Liverpool pissed the league, and then it's like, well, we're all playing for third, fourth, and fifth, and it's.
I don't know, Steve, you know, I think I'm being maybe a bit controversial when I say this, but it's not. It's usual for me, though. But I actually don't think Liverpool have been that good. I think everyone else has been mediocre. It's my personal opinion.
I don't think they've needed to be.
No.
I mean,
no.
The job Slot's done going in there is brilliant.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's picked up a really good squad, but he's found a slightly different way of doing it, and I think he's got more out of some of the players that maybe Klopp didn't fancy. So, I know it pisses every Scouser off in the world because everyone's saying, "Oh, you've won it," but it's not as good this year. Listen, it says league winners on the trophy. It don't say league winners, but weren't very good. But I totally agree with you. I think the rest of them are. No one's been very good.
I think you're right.
City's a massive example, isn't it? Sorry, I'll let you get in a minute. There's no point you getting in actually because you're a Spurs fan, so you just want the season over with a good stand, don't you, really?
He just logged off.
I think he's trying to get off now. He's trying to press the mute button. But yeah, he's got teams like City's probably the biggest example of underperformance this season, and which sounds weird because it's in their third, but this you know what I mean. Everyone knows what I mean when I say that they have underperformed. And you've got Man United have been terrible. Spurs have been awful in the league, but they've done well in the Europe, which is okay. That's going all right. That's saved the season really. Chelsea have been good at the start, and then we had a terrible run, and now we're sort of coming back in now. Newcastle, I think probably of all the teams, I think probably Newcastle and Forest have been probably the two best teams I think in the Premier League for in terms of consistency, getting results generally, also getting good results generally, and surprise results sometimes. I think those two have been good, but everybody else, I can't really think of anyone who's done better than that. Really, Palace, I think have done quite well as well. But other than that, not really anyone else really. I wouldn't say they've overperformed at all.
Yeah, you've got a few of the lower clubs like Bournemouth and Fulham.
Oh, Bournemouth, yeah, sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, I really rate Bournemouth. Good team.
That at times have looked really good and done well, and then dropped off again. Like lately, Wolves have been quite good when the new manager seems to have got them going.
Yeah.
I think Newcastle have been quite enjoyable to watch recently.
Yeah.
But like Arsenal, for example, like at the start of the year, everyone thought this will be their year. City drop off a little bit.
Yeah, they have.
Listen, they could still finish second, which is no disgrace. But I've watched their last 5 or 6 games in the league. I mean, they've been crap.
Yeah.
They've been good. They've been good in the Champions League, and maybe that has the effect then playing in midweek in Champions League, and then your focus goes on that. Knowing you can't win the league, and going back to what we were saying initially about when you know you can't win something, does you drop off a little bit? I think they maybe had an element of that, but they've not been anywhere. 2 years ago, when they nearly won it, they were a really good watch.
Yeah, they were.
I think they've been a little bit boring to watch this year, apart from when they played in the Champions League. So no, it's certainly, as you say, it's not been a vintage season. We're not going to see a brilliant last day finish like we have before, and obviously in our leagues this year as well. And you just hope some of the sides in the league next year come back a bit stronger, and it's a proper league competition next year all the way through. But would it surprise me if City signed 4 in the summer and get 100 points next year? No, it wouldn't. So you just don't know, really.
No, exactly.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's good. Sometimes it's good to get a view of the elite of football, shall we say? On sometimes we always talk about the lower league stuff. But what about you, Steve? What's your sort of plans? I know we spoke a little bit off air. What's your sort of plans for next season and the seasons beyond? Really, what you were looking at doing? Staying with Farnborough, obviously, we hope, and what about in the next sort of?
I think immediately, I think he's going to have a nice little rest and fully recover from the shoulder injury that he's still recovering from.
Yeah,
right, Steve.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't play any golf at the moment, so I think the rest from football is day job painting. So it's not exactly a well-earned rest. But I've got to be honest. Once you get to the end of the season, I do quite enjoy the rest, especially if you're just a coach, because you can switch off.
Yeah.
As a manager, this time of the season was fucking dreadful. I hated it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Phone going off the hook.
It's no one to ring you back. That's the problem. Because where I was managing, great club, but didn't have a lot of money. So I was worried that all your good players were going to get tapped up and go somewhere else. And then, even though they said they weren't leaving, they wouldn't commit until they knew it was coming in. So I hated this, but obviously the higher you go, the bigger the club you are. Maybe it's a little bit easier, but as I mentioned earlier on, I know how hard Spencer will be working, and this is quite a stressful time because you're trying to keep everyone you've already got that you want to keep and stop someone else getting them, but at the same time you're trying to get other players and everyone else is trying to get as well. So it's a really, really difficult time to do that. From a personal point of view, obviously I've had 2 years at Farnborough now, which I've really, really, really enjoyed. Great club, lovely people, got a good management team there, really, really friendly club, facilities-wise. It ticks every box, put it that way. From a personal point of view, it's been a great learning curve for me because I'm not, even though I've managed and coached for a long time, I'm not one of these people that thinks, oh, I know what I need to know and I'll stick with what I do. It's in football, I've always want to learn more. So when you're now coaching at a really good level, but you don't have the stress of the management, you can watch games a little bit differently without the pressure of making decisions and substitutions and leaving players in and out because I don't have to do that. That's been a good learning curve for me. I've got to know the level, got to know a lot of players at that level, and you like to think that stands you in good stead for possibly what you want to do in future. In regards to next season, I've not sat down and had a chat with Spencer just yet, but as far as I'm aware, he wants me to stay next year, and unless anything particularly changes from his end and from my end, I don't see any reason why I won't be. On the flip side of it, I'm still very ambitious. I think with the experience for my age, I'm 50 years of age, but I've got a lot of experience. I've managed and coached over probably the best part of 1,200 games now. Obviously, I do scouting work, so I watch a lot of football on that side of it. And do I just want to be a coach the rest of my life? It wouldn't be the end of the world because I actually do really enjoy coaching. I'm not one of these that just stands there as a twat of an assistant that just nods and agrees with everything and then picks the cones up. I don't do that, and I never would do that. And that was part of my chat with Spencer when I first come in. I want to come in and have an input and help where I can and be listened to. And ultimately, he's the manager, and I go with what he says, and he makes his decisions. But it's nice to have an input on them things, and I do get that, which is great. But I still do have ambitions to work at a higher level, whether that's in coaching, and I probably do want to manage again at some point, but without not sounding big-headed because I've got no ego at all. It would have to be a job that would tick nearly every box for me to consider doing it again. Because I wouldn't just jump up. I've been offered other managers' jobs since I come to the club. Nice clubs, nice people, but no appeal to me at all because why would you go and manage a club where you've got no money, facilities aren't great, the level's not great, and are you going to enjoy it? You're not going to enjoy it because 90% of management you don't enjoy anyway. And I know that because I did it for 12, 13 years. But if there's a job come up where you think, do you know what, if I got a hold of that job with the right players and the right people and it's got the right infrastructure behind, would I consider it? Yeah, of course I would. And I think most coaches and managers would consider other options if they were better if they did come up. And that's not me for 1 minute saying, well, if a better option comes along from Farnborough, I'm off. No, Farnborough's a great option for me if the club would like me to stay, which hopefully they do, because there's not much negative about it at all. It's an enjoyable place to go to. But as I said, I'm ambitious. I do want to get higher up the ladder if I possibly can. Who knows who knows what's around the corner? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've not had many phone calls since I've come out of it. Maybe that's because I'm not one of these busy people that's all over the internet every 5 minutes saying, "Oh, look at me! I've done this, I've done that," and posting videos of himself with a kit on and thinking maybe I should do a bit of that. I don't know. But saying that, I get myself in enough trouble online anyway, so it's probably not. That's
I know. We know that me and Simon, we obviously like you as a coach and as a person. We think you're brilliant, and we know that there are other fans of the club that feel the same way, and we know that from speaking to players as well at the club this season that you're very highly regarded and very well liked, and they enjoy having you. Everyone enjoys having you around and your coaching sessions and everything like that. So if you were hypothetically to go, then you would be a massive loss and a massive miss. So if you end up staying next season, which, like you said, you don't see any reason why not, then it's a massive plus for us a massive plus for the club.
No, and they're nice words to hear. It'd be nice to hear that off the players now and then, because I've fucking never heard that. I don't get me wrong.
Well, they told us. They told us.
Yeah, fucking didn't tell me. I can assure you of that.
Probably struggling to breathe after one of your training sessions, Steve. So
yeah, probably. Yeah. I can imagine I'll get called a few things when I walk out the gym. But yeah, like I say, I'm not looking for anything else. But you know, football's like, you never know what's around the corner, and opportunities.
But I mean, you're dead right, aren't you? You can't rule out, you know, if something amazing comes up, you can't just say no, can you? Just because you know.
And I'm also not loyalty, you know. I'm not one of these people like listen. There's a lot of good people in football, but there's some fucking idiots as well. And I hear like people go, "Oh yeah, I've got the best job here. They've got a great club. I'm not going anywhere." And as soon as another club, what's the phrase? Oh, saying eyelashes.
Batters their eyelashes.
Batters their eyelashes at you.
Yeah, that's a tough one to remember, wasn't it? Batters their eyelashes. It's been so long since someone batted their eyelashes at me.
You're talking to someone like Alan who's got massive eyebrows, so you know what I mean. You know, he never forgets when he looks in the mirror.
But yeah, you get it all levels, and I see it a lot in non-league football. And like 1 minute they're at a club, and it's the greatest club in the world, and doing all their promo videos, and all of a sudden someone else comes along and they're gone, and I think some of them just copy and paste the same crap they tweeted out when they go to the new job that they did with the last one.
Most likely,
and they'll do the same. You get that with players as well that go from club to club, and I've never really been one to do that. Certainly not as a coach or a manager, but I also appreciate I've got a very good job at Farnborough. So I'm not going to sit there and go, oh yeah, I'm never going to leave the club, and everything's brilliant, and this club's fantastic. There's nothing negative I can say about the club. I work with a good manager, great group, good people, but I've got ambitions myself, and whether or not they'll ever happen, if they don't, they don't. But on the flip side of it, the kind of ambition I have could happen at Farnborough.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
You never know what's around the corner with football.
That's good. Well, yeah, like Alan, like Alan said, you know, you're a great bloke, and you're good around the club. The players appreciate your time and efforts you put in, and they appreciate the abilities you've got as well. So it's we don't want you to go. So hopefully you're around next season and a few seasons beyond, if I'm honest. I've got one last thing to ask you though before we leave our chat. Is what do you think will come first? Farnborough being promoted into the National League, or Nigel Farage being Prime Minister of the country?
Could be a double.
That needs to answer
that'd be a great double, wouldn't it? Be a great double.
Imagine that, they could top down Farnborough with Spencer and Nige.
yeah. I don't think Spencer will be number 2 job. He'll want the top job. Farage will have to be Home Secretary, won't he?
I don't know what's more difficult to predict, football or politics.
Yeah.
There's a lot more good people in football, that's for sure.
Listen,
well, you can trust. Certainly ones you can trust anyway.
Yeah, I don't care who's in. I don't trust any of them.
No.
Especially in the last couple of governments we've had, and it's almost now, who do you vote for, because they're all as bad as each other, and then someone else comes along, you think, do I vote for them? And then when they get in, what do they do? And who at the top above all these, who pulls their strings anyway? None of us know that, and it's but this is on a political side at the minute. Everyone's got different opinions. Some people will be quite aware of mine, and the country is an absolute mess. It's an absolute state at the moment, and it does need huge change, whether that and with a different party, what that party might be in a few years' time. I think everyone can sort of see the way it's going. But as much as you think that might solve a lot of problems, it might solve a lot of the current issues we've got. But then, like, what happens after that? You just don't know with these people.
It might solve certain problems we've got now, but it might bring more with them. And you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing, isn't it? It's difficult. At least at Farnborough, Steve, you've got someone pulling the strings at the top like Garbo, and then you've got Spencer below involved and Rob. So you've got people in there you can trust, and they'll say and mean what they do. You know what I mean? So that's what you want.
As I was just saying there, that's a big difference. Like, you've got a lot of good people in football. I can't think of many in politics that are all right, and that's always been the case, and that will never change. But listen, if we're in before Labour get voted out, we've done all right.
Yeah, yeah,
And if we're not, it might be the following year. So it's only 4 years off.
Yeah.
yeah. Happy
Right.
days. I'll take that.
That there ends the politics section of the podcast and
Thank God.
Simon's tenure on the podcast as well. I'm now looking for a new co-host. So anyone that wants to apply, send us a DM on Twitter. Steve, don't go away. We'll have another little chat when we come off here. But thanks for coming on tonight and talking about the season. And your thoughts and insights are gratefully taken in, and we enjoyed talking to you about football and that. So thanks for coming on tonight, mate. It's been wonderful.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us on, and all I want to say off the back of that, probably on behalf of all the players and the staff, and that was a big thanks to all the supporters this year. I think the support's been great. I think I mentioned it when we spoke before. One thing I like about the club, obviously we've got a big support anyway, and obviously when you're doing well, your crowds are going to get bigger. When you don't do so well, they drop a little bit. That happens at any level. But the one thing I've always liked about our supporters is you don't hear a lot of negativity. I'm sure there's some stuff online, and they all say what they say to each other down the pub or in their group chats, and we're all guilty of that. But I don't hear many boos, home or away, and we get, and that's quite nice to hear, because I've been at some clubs and that's not been the case. And when you're winning, they're great, and when you're losing, no one wants to speak to you. And we don't get that at the club. And I hope as a group, if we all stay together for next year, that we can reward that support and hopefully grow it a bit more, because as I said earlier on, the bigger the crowds we get, the better the crowds we get. It certainly helps all the boys on our side. So from our point of view, thanks for everyone's support next year, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
We have a great support. We do have a great support.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There has been a little bit of negativity now and again, but it's generally been very good, and the club's done some really good work in actually quelling some of that with the open air evening that they had, the Q&A with Spencer and all the guys. That was a really good thing to do. So hopefully they'll do a bit more of that as well next season. That'd be good.
Was that the Q&A when the floodlights went?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Oh, I don't know. Did the floodlights go out? I don't know. I didn't go. I couldn't make it. I was up here, but it was a good.
When we had
the fans forum.
No, this was when we had the open training session at the club.
Oh, was that?
Oh no,
I couldn't make that either. I was stuck up here.
We had an open training session at the club.
Yeah,
and which was like in start of April, end of March.
Which
was a bit strange.
I think 2nd of April. I think it was, wasn't it?
Not for me to question that. And then it was afterwards. Everyone go up in the bar and have a chat with the fans and this and that. And then 40 minutes into the training session, the floodlights went. There was a power cut in Farnborough.
Brilliant. No one's mentioned that.
And then I think Spencer disappeared, and we called the whole thing come to a halt when everyone went home. But I don't know whether that was sabotage.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I know the attendance wasn't as big as they were hoping, and maybe that's what they thought. Maybe they just couldn't see anybody. That was the trouble. There was loads of people.
I don't know if the sabotage was from our side or the supporter side.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet they just didn't fancy going up to the bar afterwards and just flick the switch.
So, but no, it was. No, it was a good night anyway.
Yeah, it's probably Neil Baker. He saw they couldn't string two passes together. Right, sod this. We cut the lines.
I think he was doing me a favour. I was probably putting a poor session on. He turned the lights off.
Don't know what he's doing, this bloke. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you up in the bar after some of the games as well next season. Steve, I haven't seen you for a few weeks because you've been sharing lifts and stuff, haven't you, with Dave?
Yes, mate. I wasn't able to drive, and my chauffeur Dave, the goalie coach, who was brilliant. To be fair, while I was out, he was picking me up here, there, and everywhere. We were like a married couple. So he dropped me home, so I didn't hang around too much after, which I do miss. I love going up for a beer with everyone afterwards in the games and whatnot. So
I
thought you'd been banned actually, Steve. I thought someone had made a complaint, and that was it. You're out.
Well, they might have made a complaint, but I wasn't banned. Hopefully, I'll see you in there soon.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, hopefully see you soon. Yeah.
Don't go away. But this episode was sponsored by Chartec Consulting, taking your business visions and turning them into innovative reality. For more information, visit chartecconsulting.co.uk. Simon, I think this probably is going to be the last one of the season. I don't know if we've got anything planned for the next couple of weeks, but as the season's finished, I think it probably is a good way to end this season. Say good night, Simon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for listening this season. See you next. See you in a month or so, probably. I think. And Thanks for listening to the All Things Politics podcast. Yeah.
And that's it for us. We will be back in the next few weeks with another episode.